Hello folks, it's me, Hubert, the Mayor's Chief of Staff. One fateful Christmas day, Couchman offered a gift in the form of a thinly veiled prompt to review this story. The fabled Ready Player One book that everyone I've talked to insists is better than the movie. Well, cowabunga dudes, hold on to your butts, because yippee-ki-yay, we're going on a pop culture binge. I hate pop culture references in movies. It's a cheap, pathetic cash-in on nostalgia and is typically used in place of actual plot and relevance. But wouldn't you know it, some guy by the name of Ernest Cline got it in his head to fill an entire book with them. Then Steven Spielberg said, let's take all those pop culture references, gut the story, and make a movie about it. Let's get this out of the way. Yes, what people have been telling you is correct. The book is better. But before I deconstruct it and tell you why, I need to get something off my chest. This book and the subsequent movie can go right to hell. I have never hated myself more than after I read this book. Every other word out of every character's mouth is either a pop culture reference or talking about how much they love James Holiday and the Oasis. Now I get that was kind of the point of the thing, but that's my gripe. Just because you admit that you're about to start whistling Yankee Doodle Dandy through your nose doesn't mean I have to be on board with it. Nostalgia is fun, for you. For someone who's just looking for a good sci-fi read, though, it can come off as annoying. While I was reading the book, all I could think was, good God, is that what I sound like? By the end of the first chapter, I wanted to kick Wade's ass and afterward my own. Now I'm about to get into some spoilers here, so I highly recommend that if you still want to read Ready Player One, you tune out now. The plot centers around a teenage boy named Wade Watts who lives in a dystopian future that looks pretty much like what everyone in Hollywood thinks present day looks like. He hates his life, so he buries himself in the world's most popular VR game called Oasis. Well, wouldn't you know it, the developer, James Holiday, is a huge Willy Wonka fan, and decides to issue a contest for any and all randos to participate. The prize is controlling stock of his multi-billion-dollar company. Gee, there's no way this could possibly backfire. In enter the Gunters. Gunter is a cute little nickname for people who slavishly worship Holiday to near Kool-Aid drinking levels. They seek to find the Easter egg Holiday hid, because they're noble little acolytes who will defend the honor and sanctity of the Oasis. And so we arrive at the antagonists, the Sixers. These guys represent a mustache-twirling corporation known as IOI that will stop at literally nothing to obtain the Easter egg because corporation equal bad. In spite of my earlier comment, I can't really find a big enough flaw in this book to make me call it terrible. I've read a lot worse, and I would almost say it's really good. True, it's loaded with pop culture drivel, but it's a compelling read. The pacing is good, and Ernest Cline at least has a fundamental understanding of character development and dramatic tension. It also has a relevant message, that message being that even the most die-hard gamer needs to come up for air from time to time, or risk missing out on the important things in life. You know, like not being a drooling, comatose vegetable and actually having sex with a real person. It also has a lot to say about acceptance and not being shallow. Then there's the movie. Oh my god, literally every terrible thing I've heard about this movie was right. Their approach to making this movie was as follows. Take out anything that resembles charm, significance, and character development, gut it like a fish, and watch its innards spill all over the floor. Then, while it continues to gasp and stare in wide-eyed horror at its own viscera lying on the floor in front of it in a crimson pile, stuff it with sawdust and sew buttons over its eyes in the form of bright, colorful CGI effects. And nothing else. Again, I must stress, this is a book I just read a week ago, so my anger is not derived from any sense of nostalgia. After reading it, though, I did notice that it had its share of redeeming qualities. The movie, however, removed every single one of those qualities. I won't go into detail about every little aspect they got wrong, or we'd be here all night. Let's just limit it to the characters for now. The first atrocity is what they did to Wade. Book Wade is a clever kid, even if he is a whiny little douche that I wanted to punch in the face. Oh, wah, you're from a broken home. So was Luke Skywalker. You don't see him turning all Force atheist over it. But I digress. It was Wade's dedication and willingness to pore through piles of data that helped him deduce the location of the very first key. Gosh, what a bright little boy he is. Movie Wade just hears a very, very transparent clue in the form of a magical video memory. Seriously, it was just like Holiday said, "Go here, stupid." Next, it's important to note that Book Wade is a die-hard retro game nerd. The book explores this concept very well. For example, while searching for more clues for the next key, he plays himself a game of Pac-Man and discovers that it's actually another one of Holiday's puzzles. Whether or not it pertains to the quest, he doesn't know, but because of who he is, he does it anyway. He has to achieve the highest score possible in Pac-Man in order to win this particular challenge, and because he's such a resourceful little nerd, he does it. This world-building exercise serves the dual purpose of showing us just how much Wade resembles Holiday, and it leads him to acquiring an extra life token. This little bauble is the only thing that saves Wade from the world-ending bomb known as the Cataclysm. Movie Wade? The token is literally just handed to him. He also infiltrates the IOI headquarters himself by deliberately getting himself captured. This allows him to hack the internal database and get all the information he needs to expose IOI's shady business to the world. He then makes a daring escape, saves the lives of the people he had alienated, and leads the charge to bring down Sorrento. Wow, Book Wade is really shaping up into a true blue hero. Now let's look at Movie Wade. Because Movie Wade is a total pantload, Artemis gets captured instead of him. She's the one who learns of the essential secrets for taking down Sorrento. Meanwhile, through some means that is never clearly explained, Movie Wade tricks Sorrento into thinking he's IRL instead of in Oasis. I guess I could forgive this if it wasn't for the very next scene in which he tells Artemis to pull the escape dungeon lever that's hidden inside of her cell. There's no lock in that compartment? It's just there? Good God, who designed this place? A Zelda boss? I'd call this a hidden reference, but I feel like that's giving them too much credit. Bottom line, Movie Wade sucks. Arguably, the worst sin was committed against Daito and Shoto. The story with these two was that they were brothers in the game, but in real life they had never even met each other, and showed no intention of doing so. This means that a bond of deep friendship had formed online, to the point of these two lonely souls becoming inseparable. This clearly illustrates the benefits of technology like Oasis on an emotionally impactful level. Movie Daito and Shoto, on the other hand, are basically just some random dudes, one of which is a kid. Oh, what hilarious hijinks with people underestimating him because he's a kid, even though literally no one does. It's a joke that does not land and it contributes nothing to the story. Artemis was relatively unchanged except for the fact that she was a chubby girl in the book. On principle, I refuse to unironically say thick. And she definitely didn't have an army of goons at her command. She sort of got turned into a cliché 1980s action movie resistance leader. Again, whether this is an intentional homage or not, I refuse to give this movie credit for it. What is the point of her being the leader of a resistance? You didn't take the time to explore the idea, so why include it? This concept is never explored thoroughly and only exists to bring all the characters under one roof. In the book, Ogden Morrow is the one who drags everyone together for the final confrontation. You know, Ogden Morrow, Holiday's best friend and co-creator of Oasis. He's kind of a big deal. Oops. Maybe they couldn't afford to pay Simon Pegg to do any more scenes. It's important to point out that in the book, Artemis used an avatar that looked essentially just like her. However, she insists that it isn't necessarily a reflection of reality. She does this to reinforce the idea that she could potentially just be some hairy dude named Chuck. This helps to build suspense and anticipation for when the star-crossed lovers eventually meet. After all, why use an imperfect avatar if that's not what you actually look like? Regardless, Wade correctly assesses that most people prefer to use a more flawless and flashy avatar. Artemis carefully crafted her avatar to look just like her, minus a physical deformity on her face. This feeds the suspense, as well as inadvertently give us an understanding about Artemis's character. In the movie, there's absolutely no suspense. There is literally no reason to assume that she looks anything like her avatar. You mean to tell me that you really don't look like a bug-eyed pink pixie with porcupine quills in your hair? No way! Movie Wade goes after her like a horny teen goes after a cute girl gamer. All that's missing is the part where he calls her an ugly skank and that he hopes she gets gang raped. Sorry, that's the internet, folks. Lastly, we have H, Wade's best friend and confidant. For the most part, H is about the same except for her avatar. In the book, H is, in reality, an overweight black lesbian. She deliberately chose a white male avatar to avoid discrimination. My own view on the social commentary aside, this is how her character is written, and a writer in any other way does a disservice to her as well as the author who wrote her. Well, guess what they did. Go ahead, guess. Instead of a white male, her avatar is, wait for it, a gray-skinned cyborg alien with a voice that very clearly sounds like a black woman's voice run through a filter.
That went well.
I for one am genuinely shocked. In an era where social justice is ham-handedly shoved into every facet of modern media, especially nerd media, this is the character that slipped through the cracks? You have a tailor-made PC lightning rod, and you don't use it! Honestly, I'm just stunned. Hey, all you shrieking ninnies with the gynocentric hats and picket signs, why don't you protest this hot mess? Give things like Red Dead and the original Star Wars trilogy a little break from all your screaming. So let's review. Book Wade, a smart, resourceful, and whiny, albeit relatable loner. He goes along the classic hero's journey and learns a valuable lesson. Movie Wade, some mushmouth dumbass who just luckily blunders through everything and gets carried along by his friends. Daito and Shoto. In the book, two very close friends whose bond of friendship transcends physical boundaries. In the movie, they're just two random, one-dimensional, boring dudes, one of whom is 11 and embarrassed about it. Artemis. In the book, she's anything but perfect, but you can get inside her head and understand her a bit, which makes her a likable, maybe even lovable character. She likes Wade more than she cares to admit, but keeps him at a distance for fear of getting hurt. You know, like a flawed human being, aka a well-written character. In the movie, she's basically the same, except in a way that's rushed and isn't explored very well. H, in the book, makes a statement about society's view on pretty much every minority in the book. In the movie, doesn't. The bottom line. This movie is all flash and no substance, if you'll forgive the cliche. Since movies are a visual presentation, I can understand why they work so hard to make it as pretty as possible. But that's not an excuse for bad writing. There's no character development, and the story just feels so watered down. Couldn't you have at least left in the part where he discovers the D&D map and plays Joust to win the first key? Are you honestly trying to tell me that the Lich King from the book wouldn't have been visually interesting? Well, I guess it wouldn't have been as visually interesting as a bunch of Batman cameos. We get it, Warner Brothers, you own one of the most beloved characters in history. Too bad you can't seem to do anything good with them outside of the first and second Nolan films. Look, I don't have a dog in this fight, like a lot of the people who told me to read the book seem to have. All in all, I find Ready Player One to be only slightly less objectionable than The Big Bang Theory. However, having consumed both the book and the movie, I now fully understand why the latter is so hated. Whether intentionally or unintentionally, it makes a mockery of the source material, while at the same time trying to cash in on said property. Of all the shameless cash grabs, this is definitely one of the most egregious I've seen in a long time. It's almost as if IOI got their hands on it. They didn't seem to particularly care if it was any good, as long as they cashed in on some of that sweet nostalgia money. You want to know what really does astonish me, though? People who are antagonizing fans of the book. I did some browsing on IMDb. 9 out of 10 reviews adorn the wall of this site like Christmas tree lights. The only negative reviews seem to come from, you guessed it, people who read the book. One response I read was, "Sorry nerds, this one's for the rest of us." You know, I really resent the notion that you think the rest of us, which until recently included me, are a bunch of brain-dead nostalgia hounds like you. I knew right from the beginning that this movie was going to be cringe incarnate. Way before I ever read the book. This movie blows harder than the Horn of Gondor, and yes, I know, a horn can't blow itself. And speaking of blowing oneself, stop falling for the nostalgia hype, you freaking idiots. This movie sucks! Do I really even need to give this thing a score out of fantastic? The best I can do is a 3, a failing grade in my book. On a more positive note, while the movie makes the long march to the gallows, the book gets to walk out of my courtroom a free man. My initial rating of Ready Player One the book was a 5. But because I'm feeling generous, I'll bump it up to a 6. You made the grade, son. Now get the hell out and try not to trip over all the names you dropped.